It's almost supper time, so I'm getting started on what we're going to eat tonight. One of the things I'm going to make, I thought I would show you how to make it, comes out of mine and Jim Casada's cookbook, Celebrating Southern Appalachian Food, Recipes, and Stories from Mountain Kitchens. I'll link to that down below if you've not picked up your copy. It's got great recipes from mine and Jim's family, but also wonderful history when you think about the foodways of the Appalachian Mountains. But what I'm going to make today is really, really simple. Just be one of the, in a way, one of the side dishes, but I guess it's kind of one of the main attractions too. This is going to be a pretty simple supper. So the name of it is Streaked Meat Dutch Oven Potatoes. Very, very simple. So a lot of you may be asking, what is streaked meat? Streaked meat is salt pork. So in my area of Appalachia, you hear people call that by lots of different names. You think of Matt, like he calls it side meat. My family calls it side meat sometimes, but sometimes Pap and Granny would say fatback. They would say streaked meat, just like what's in the book. I've even heard people say streak of lean or streak-a-lean meat. So lots of different names for it. Now, if you've never had it, a lot of people in some of my videos where I'm cooking with it, they say, oh, well, that's just bacon. It's not. It's not bacon because it's really salty. It's salt cured. Many people, when they cook it, if they're going to cook with it like I'm going to today, or if they're going to, a lot of times we eat it just fried like you would fry bacon. People will let it soak and get some of that salt off. We don't ever do that. We just leave it. We like the salt, whether it's good for you or not. We like it and we leave it on there. Other people I've heard say, since I've started sharing videos on Celebrating Appalachia, they say no, fatback, true fatback is white. It doesn't have any streak, any meat in it. And that's likely so, but in my area, again, people just interchange those. Like I said, you'll hear people calling it fatback, streaked meat, streak-a-lean, or side meat, all talking about the same thing. And in other places, it probably maybe does mean individually, and maybe most people just call it salt pork. Now, if you buy it at the grocery store, my local grocery store has it, Ingles, Walmart, places like that, it usually will just say salt pork on it. And sometimes, like I was saying, some people pointed out, it is just white. It's just like, it looks like all fat. There's nothing else there except white. And then other times it has some of that lean meat in it. Another great place to find it is at, of course, if you know a farmer who slaughters hogs, that's the best place to find it. That's going to be the best that you've got, or if you do it yourself. But I've noticed a lot of produce stands will have it. And a lot of times they have like a farmer, like a family-owned business kind of brand in their little produce section there. So that's another place to look for it. I'm going to hold up a piece here and show you if I can find a piece that's got some. So this is one. You can see the fat definitely, but you can also see the lean part, the meat part. And sometimes when you buy it in the store, it comes, you can get it already sliced. You know, it's already sliced in pretty thick pieces, more like a thick bacon, but even thicker than that usually. Or it just comes in a slab, and then you have to slice it yourself. This that I had today was in a slab, so I just took a knife and sliced it up there. And as I said, most often Matt and I, the way we eat it, we just eat fried. And that's just our meat. Goes especially good with soup beans and fried taters and cornbread. But it is good for seasoning too, which is kind of what it's going to be used in this recipe. We use it to season, thinking of green beans or soup beans, either one. So it's often used like that too. So now I'm going to share the recipe with you. Thoroughly scrub 5 or 6 good-sized bacon potatoes and then quarter them. Place in a Dutch oven and sprinkle with black pepper to taste. Cover with strips of fatback and cook at 400 degrees for about an hour. Check while cooking to be sure that they aren't overheating or getting too done. Use a fork to make certain the potatoes are done. You may need to add salt, but do not do this until after the potatoes are cooked. The streaked meat will usually contain enough salt to season them. And that recipe is in mine and Jim's book, but it's actually from Jim's family. And it's interesting, like I was saying, those terms are interchangeable. Well, the name of we've named, me and him both, we've named the recipe from his family streaked meat. And he says streaked meat in the directions, but then he also says fatback. So that's just how common that is to interchange them. Anyway, it's going to be really good. Now I have my oven over there heating up, and I have one of my cast iron Dutch ovens right here, and I have some of the potatoes that Matt and I grew this year. So that's going to be good. Now I'm wondering if I should quarter mine. Mine are not that big of potatoes, or if I should just cut them in half. I'm almost thinking about leaving them in half. The recipe does say to quarter them, but since mine are so small, I think I'm just going to half them. Of course, it would be good if you chopped them up into, diced them even, or into even smaller than quarters. That's something you might just need to play around with. And I don't know if my pan's going to fit them all, so I may not end up using them all. Let's go with this one. This one's got a bad place in it, so I might see if I can cut it and get. I almost got all of it. I could see something had been eaten on one end of it. Take that. Kind of worked out good, because then that's going to fit in my pan better since I had to cut it. So now I've got them cut. Let me get me some black pepper. Set this over here. Okay. You could put whatever other kind of seasonings you wanted on it too. I'm not crazy. I like a little bit of black pepper, but not a whole lot. But Matt really loves it. Okay. And now I'm just going to take some of my pieces and lay them on top. As the meat cooks, it will, release its fat and drip down over the potatoes. So that's going to be really, really yummy. Got just one or two little pieces I'll put in there. Now that I've got it covered with the meat, I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to put it in my oven at 400 degrees like the recipe said, and then we'll check it in about an hour. So now that I've got the potatoes in cooking, I'm on to the next part of our meal. It's going to be so simple though. It's going to be those potatoes, and I've got some butter beans that's from our garden. I'm going to cook the butter beans. Beautiful, beautiful colors. If you can see some of them. This may be the last ones we have. There's a few still out there growing, but this may be the last big bunch that we have. So I've got them, and I'm going to cook them. And then we've been cooking some of our Mississippi pink eye peas with them. It's so good with them all mixed up together. And I've got a few of those over in the sink. I just had just a handful, so not many. But I'm tempted to put some of our Holstein peas we grew this year for the first time. You can see those little peas. I'm tempted to put some of them in there. This is all we grew. We planted, well, I have some more for seed, but just, probably 20 over there for seed. But this is, well, I guess I kept more than 20. I can't remember how many I kept. Anyway, not many, as you can see. So I want to taste them though. I want to get to taste them. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to throw a handful of them in with the butter beans and let them cook in there. And maybe I should just put all that in there. Maybe I might just pour them all in there, and then we'll cook them and see how they turn out, see what they taste like. I would season them the same way if I cooked them by themselves or if I cooked them like this, so I don't think that'll make much difference. I'll probably take some of that side meat, fat back, and put in here to cook. And since I'm getting started later in the day, I know my potatoes will be done in about an hour. The only other thing I'm going to make is a cake of cornbread, and that won't take 20 minutes. So I think I'm going to throw these in the Instapot and cook them that way, just so they'll be done with everything else. Normally I like to cook them on top of the stove just so that I can keep a really close eye on them, but the Instapot works good too. So I'm going to do that since I'm kind of in a hurry this evening. Okay, I got my butter beans and my peas all washed up. I've got the Mississippi pink eye, I've got the beautiful colored butter beans, and the little Holstein pea in there. So I've got them all washed up. I'm going to go ahead and put them in my Instapot here. You can see how much is in there. I got 2 pieces of the fat back I'm going to put down in there with it. I'm also going to put just a squirt of olive oil. I guess that was about maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I'm going to cover them with water. And I think I'm going to pressure them to begin with. I'm going to do 20 minutes, since these are mostly, those little bitty ones were dried, but the others are all fresh. So I'm going to do 20 minutes, and then I'm going to check them. As far as seasoning them, I might add, maybe I'll add some pepper. But I'm not going to add any salt because of the salt pork. Now, when I check them after 20 minutes, I can, you know, as I taste them, I can see if anything is amiss. I can add something else. Of course, you could add whatever you wanted to add too. But we're going to let them go for 20 minutes in the Instapot under pressure. Okay, it's been an hour, so we're going to check on the potatoes. They're definitely done. So I've still got to cook my cornbread. I think what I'm going to do is put the potatoes back in the oven. Probably not for the whole 20 minutes though that I need to do the cornbread. Maybe for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and see if some of that meat will crisp up, because we'll be wanting to eat some of that with our wonderful butter beans and cornbread too. Oh, it smells so good too. I wish you could smell it. So I decided I'd run out here and get us some onions for supper, to go with our supper. There's a zinnia you can see coming up. I don't know if it'll make it to bloom before cold weather or not, but I'm gonna get us a few onions. I just like to go ahead and clean them while I'm out here, and that way I don't have to worry about taking the dirt inside the house. I won't need many, just 3 or 4. Okay, I think we're ready. Very simple meal, but oh my goodness, it looks so good. Go ahead and get me one of the potatoes out. Actually, I think I could eat 2 of them. Get one of those little ones. I could get me a piece or 2 of the meat. So taking the lid off and then leaving them in there really crisped up that meat. The potatoes were already done, but that really made a difference in the crispiness of the meat. I like to eat my peas like I like to eat my soup beans, so I crunch up my cornbread and put some of that wonderful, wonderful pot liquor over them with the wonderful peas and butter beans. So I did, me and Matt, when we checked to see if the pressure in them 20 minutes was enough, I added 3 more minutes, so 23 minutes is what I did. Of course, it would be different probably depending on the amount that you had. But when we opened them up to taste them, I couldn't wait. I said, let's taste that little Holstein pea and see what it tastes like. It tastes like a black-eyed pea, very similar to a black-eyed pea. Now, the butter beans and the Mississippi pink-eye peas, they're more of a milder flavor, not as strong as those black-eyed peas are as the Holstein. So that's what it tasted like. I also remember to get out some of our Kraut. It goes perfectly with a meal like this. And then I got us some onions from the yard. Of course, with my onions, I like to, when I'm eating a green onion, I like to put out a little bit of salt so that I can dip it in there every bite. I learned that from Pap and Granny. So now I'm going to taste, what a feast. Taste one of these potatoes, which I know it's going to be good. It's pretty hard not to cook a good tater. They're just good, no matter how you do them, pretty much. Really good because that meat, the flavor of it has went down into the potato. Very soft. And the skin has got some kind of crunchy. Now you definitely don't need any additional salt. And in fact, if you're somebody that's salt sensitive, I wouldn't even make this with the salt pork unless I soaked it and got some of that salt out, because it is a salty meat. But of course, we like it enough just to eat the meat with the salt. Another thing you could do is use the exact same recipe and just use bacon if you didn't want to use the saltiness of the salt pork. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this easy recipe from mine and Jim Casada's cookbook. If you've not picked up your copy, again, I'll put the link in the description in case you're interested. You'd like to go check it out and see what it's all about. As always, I'm really grateful when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia.